All right, peace and power, my people, man. First of all, first and foremost, for everyone that's been, giving their time and energy, thank you. I love you. Thank you so much because this energy truly does inspire my family, inspire myself, inspire Drop Nation. Love to Jay Stu and the wonderful Camellia and Shalise and Mario. Love to V Perkins. Love to the family making it happen, man, making it happen. Transitioning off the grid. This is a community that you see developing right before your eyes, that's learning step by step. You know what I'm saying? Look, we're people. You know what I'm saying? People have flaws and this, and this, but when you see the organic effect, when you see the movement, when you feel the vibration, when you feel the momentum, why would you fight against reason? Why would you resist the creator? Why would you resist that which is being created before your eyes? So for all those that's, giving the dropping the drop, thank you so much, man. Every bit of this 705 is going to great use. 450 already has gone towards this community, man, towards our wonderful community and getting set up, man, regardless of what the situation is. So what you're giving and what you're donating is being put right into effect, right into Jay Stu's hands, right into the family's hands. And it might seem like a little drop, you know what I'm saying? But it's a great deal of drop, you know what I'm saying, when you are in a situation that you are building. And for us to be proactive together in a situation that's building with our family, we're working as one organism. So, this is what it is. And I love y'all. So this is how we're going to do it. We're going to do it real transparent and real beautiful for all these beautiful donations that's coming in, you know what I'm saying? So like I said, so far about 450 it's gone towards that community so far. So far, I mean, so that's another 250 that's still in there. So we still need, you know what I'm saying, you to continue with those, $5, $10, because for the next drop that we can drop off, you know what I'm saying, the next time the brothers go out there with the care package, whatever they need, whether it's, the propane heater situation or whatever situation in between, we want to be there for our community. You know what I'm saying? Not just Jay Stu, not just Camellia, but all of the folks, all the family that you've seen in front of you. If Arthur Scott Jr. hits me up, if Emmanuel Hezekiah says I'm going to the wilderness, we can have something in there for them. Right now, Jay Stu is off the grid. Jay Stu has gone for it. Jay Stu went. We've rallied around Jay, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of everybody who's been rallying. This is just the beginning, man. So all y'all that's been rallying, I'm so proud of y'all. Y'all been doing this already with your energy, and now you're seeing where it's going, and it is going right into their hands. So keep giving that drop, keep giving your time, and I appreciate that, man. First and foremost, love to y'all. So again, man, this is I was about to say this is my man AD's fault, man. That King AD, man, my homies, man, you know what I'm saying, my folks, man, behind the scenes, man, you know what I'm saying, that's just constantly digging, hit me up with, you know what I'm saying, some great information. I might even feel like I'm even ready for it because I got so many other things I want to, look into, but sometimes it just got to get your attention, man. And Queen Califia, she's so beautiful. I mean, she will get your attention. She will get your attention because these are our mothers. This is what's forgotten. You know what I mean? But how does this connect? How does it connect to the kingdoms? How does this connect to the unison? So we don't got that much time. I don't want to spend too much time on nothing that you don't need. I want to give you all the skinny, no fat. All skinny, no fat. We're going to get the rest of this. We got some of this in Preston John 17. Thank y'all for checking that out. Keep vibing to it. Give me your comments. Who is Preston John? Who got the drop? We're almost there, y'all. We on his ass. You already know. So now, of course, like I said, we're going to make this right turn into Queen Califia. I'm not even going to go too deep. I'm just going to give you a little bit off the top of what the good bros been hit me with, a little bit from this link, a little bit from another link that came up just in a random conversation we were having. And, more is building, much more is building. But, we got to get it all out quick. We don't have time to, sit back on it. So this is always how we function with the drop. What I got, I literally, if it makes sense with where we're going, I don't hold it. I don't keep it. I don't wait for the seminar. I don't wait for the debate. You know what I'm saying? Who cares, man? We're building in real time. We're building our community in real time. Our community is making moves just because they got the drop. Because of the drop, because of the Lex Wills, and, you know what I'm saying, Let Us Find the Truth, and, you know what I'm saying, all the brothers and all the family, the sisters in between, Styles by Nina's, and Madison Smiles, and Hallway CH, you know what I'm saying? Because of everybody that's ever dropped any type of drop at all. Michael Thompson, Copper Warrior, man, seriously, man. I mean, the Mexican Pyramids, shit, it got me up on it. I got the book. So I appreciate every bit of drop. There ain't got to be no static in between nothing. We can all flow, because that's all we really want to do is vibrate together. And we're much powerful when we're united, you know what I'm saying? So the drop is knowledge, power, organic frequency. You know the community. You see it being built. And again, keep dropping that drop. But let's go right into it. Queen Califia, love to M. Michelle, who's a wonderful researcher, man. Check out this queen. Subscribe to her. She drops very pertinent information, very powerful. This is just a little 30 minutes on Queen Califia. Then we're going to jump into the Queen of California, all right? And hopefully we're going to be able to cover this Ray Hagen's, man. Hey, undressing the lie, the truth, undressing the lies. So we got to go quick. We got to go quick. All right, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Love y'all.
I wanted to do a story on Queen Califia. I did some research on Queen Califia, and it's like on a surface net, you can't find but so much. Google is not going to show you much. So I went on the deep web, of course. Many of those that complain about, okay, well, this link is broken or is missing. If you're looking up a lot of the links on the surface web, it will pop up broken or missing because it is on the deep web.
Wow. Hey, that's the drop. Get out of here, y'all. Go home. Huh? Hug your babies. Kiss your wife. Seriously, man. The deep web? We've been doing all this recon, and I've never heard of this deep web. So, M. Michelle, you got the drop. Like I said, I know a lot about a little and a little about a lot. And that's wonderful drop right there. So can someone please give me some drop on the deep web? And can we please start incorporating it into our investigation of Preston John, possibly King Solomon, and Queen Califia, Queen California, possibly Sheba. Lego.
A reason, okay? Keep that in mind. But this link was able to get pulled up on the surface web. That's usually what I do. I'll test the links, and if I can't get to them on the surface web, then I know the majority of you that listen to me aren't going to think, okay, well, maybe let me go on the deep web, the majority. So I'll just go ahead and I'll post the story for those of you that want the story and I can't transfer the link over. Just let me know, and I'll be more than happy to go ahead and get that story, and I'll email it to you or whatever have you. So yeah, that's pretty much it. This is the story for Queen Califia. It is very, very Queen California, I believe it's pronounced. Queen California. It is very, very in-depth. It is the most in-depth, detailed, accurate, factual research that I can find on Queen California. So I hope that you guys like it. Leave any questions, comments, thumbs up, thumbs down. Make yourself useful. But any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section. You know, I'll answer as quickly as I can. And this one will have a link to it. Like I said, enjoy. Please have a happy Tuesday. Be blessed this Tuesday. I'm gonna do some more stuff on some meditation for you guys. For those of you that have been asking me questions on that, meditation is key, people. Like it really is. It's key. So be blessed. I love you guys. I even love my haters. Somebody's gotta love you. Your mama did.
Califia and the California Blacks.
All right, let's dig in, y'all.
Ancient American Empire of 11. Queen of Diamonds and Gold. Califia and the California Blacks. Whoever controls
California
the
Blacks.
images, control your self-esteem, self-respect, and self-development. Whoever controls your history controls your vision. Dr. Leonard Jeffries.
Leonard
Queen
Jeffries.
Califia and
Listen
the
to this
California
again.
Blacks. Ancient American Empire of 11. Queen of Diamonds and Gold. Califia and the California Blacks. Whoever controls the images, control your self-esteem, self-respect, and self-development.
Whoever controls your images controls your self-esteem and self-respect. You don't respect yourself because you've never seen yourself. You've seen them, so you respect them. And you see this wall art, and you see this queen. This is her face. She's holding something. The Queen of Diamonds, the Queen of Gold, the Queen of California.
Whoever controls your history controls your vision. Dr. Leonard Jeffries. Asterisk in the continental United States of America, there were Africans who came before slavery, before Columbus, and thousands of years before Jesus Christ. In many cases, these blacks, and other indigenous nations established thriving civilizations in ancient America. Queen Califia and the California blacks were one such ancient black nation.
Now, before we get too deep in the hijacking, I'm just going to let it flow because we're going to get into some more of the Afrocentric situation. We hear a robot talking, so someone programmed this robot. So we get the babies out. There's always hijack to dodge, and this is, of course, going to be the Africa, right? And, you know, I'm only doing this because it's necessary. Because this has been coming right back into play for us. So they're going to tell you that this queen and all these descendants, everyone's coming out of this spot right here and migrating into America. All right, so forget about this large continent that's been sunk. Forget about this large continent on the other side of America. Queen Califia couldn't have came from Lemuria. Queen Califia couldn't have came from Atlantis. She had to come from Africa. You see, they're giving you truth, but they're also shrinking you so that you can only claim one continent and leave all of Asia, all of Lemuria, Atlantis out the equation. Love to AD, who gave me some drop on the Condem, which is also Lemuria, as it connects to India, as Australia used to connect to India. I said Australia used to connect to India. That's why the Aboriginals of Australia don't say they came from Africa. They would more likely say they came from Mu or Lemuria, right? So keep the sunken islands in mind. Keep the hijack, be hijack free. They're going to keep trying to put you right here so that they can claim the rest of the puzzle, the rest of the pie, the rest of the riches, the gold. If she's the prince or the queen, of the riches, the queen of the gold and the rubies, Queen Califia, man, California, man, Cali. You know, I'm from LA, so you know this hits home. And I know to AD this been hitting home. So let go, AD, man. You know what I'm talking about, man. Let go, man.
Reigning over the Empire of 11, in the ancient kingdom of Utla, the nation of Atlan, was the great queen of gold and diamonds, ruler of the California blacks. Queen Califia, decorated warrior general, mother, was the grand and beautiful royal leader in the beloved, wealthy, and powerful land of the blacks. A civilization with an abundance of natural resources, gold, diamonds, vast quantities of precious stones and metals, with territory spanning thousands and thousands of miles throughout California. From the coast of San Francisco to Bahia, Mexico, as far inland as Colorado, Utah, and all the Pacific Ocean island nations including Hawaii and Australia.
Look at this image. You see this afro on top? These are the cave art. These are the cave paintings. We just got the previous drop, and they're going to drop how these are damn near CGI. That they're advanced technological cave paintings that have the pixels of CGI, like they were doing this shit in CGI. High technology shit, man. These are not TP Indians. This shit was a lie. Let's go.
Places where most of the original inhabitants were Aborigine, black, and brown people of color. Queen Califia was a powerful general queen, a strategic opponent, who commanded and maintained a fleet of ships while ushering in a time of peace in all surrounding lands. The robust California blacks were master trainers and lovers of exotic animals with developed skills. They were able to teach themselves to defend, utilizing a real force of domesticated and trained griffins and eagles, snakes, tigers, and bears. Along with other species native to California and Africa, these unusual creatures were trained to protect the land and its people. So loved, respected, and powerful was the queen, she could project her imperial rule over the seas of the Mediterranean. A master of communication and commerce, trading gold-tipped spears, gold, diamonds, precious stones, furs, food, plants, rare birds and animals, as well as maintaining cultural and trading contacts with Africa, Australia, and the Pacific Islands. This great lady ruler also successfully defended her empire during wars in the Mediterranean Sea and Anatolia, as well as against the Byzantine Empire and in southern Europe. Queen Califia and the mighty empire of the California blacks, a people whose civilization and history has been lost to time and space through a deliberate destructive conspiracy.
Lost to time and space is code word for lost to their frequency. They've erased you. Now, where do you think Prester John is during this time, where she's fighting all these wars as this emperor queen? You don't think they were working together? It sounds a lot like King Solomon and Queen Sheba, if you ask me.
Conspiracy of lies, secrets, and deaths perpetrated by evil invaders of ancient America. To say they came before Columbus is an understatement. They came thousands and thousands of years before. Many historians, including the renowned expert and father of ancient Africa studies, Dr. Van Sertima, author of the best-selling book, They Came Before Columbus, David Imhotep, Ph.D., the first Americans were black, and Cheikh Anta Diop, the African origin of civilization, myth, or reality, among many, all concur and prove that the first Africans started arriving in ancient times, between 56,000, 100,000 years ago. It is now also an archaeological fact that the true original people of the Americas included many nations, and the black Californians were one of them, as descendants of the Olmecs, West Africa Manding, Egyptians, kings of Kush, and the first emperor of China.
Egyptians, kings of Kush, all these people are connected with the indigenous people of the America. Now, of course, they say they migrated from Africa 56,000 years ago. These people are not giving you anything circumstantial, anything evidentiary to prove your migration 56,000 years ago from Africa, when they didn't call it Africa 56,000 years ago. And in our maps, they're calling it Arabia and Abyssinia. Now, Prester John of the Three Indias, or Abyssinia, she's also this Ethiopian, queen, right? Which is an Abyssinian queen. So you have the emperor of Abyssinia, as in Prester John, right? King David, Emperado de los Abyssinios, emperor of Abyssinia. Then you got Queen Sheba of Ethiopia. But Prester John is here. Again, we're in part 18 now. We're going to part 18 now of Prester John. How does it connect?
China, Shangdis, Shang Dynasty. Other ancient civilizations occupying California in the distant past include members of Black Mohawk.
Look, people, man. Look, you came here for the interruption. So I'm going to interrupt the shit out of you today. You see this picture of Carolinas? This is the Yamasee War, 1715, April 19, painted by the Dutch painter Peter Schenck. The gruesome attack of the Indians on the English. Oh, really? Well, why were the English fucking with the Indians? And what do the Indians look like? Look at all these Negroes with headdresses on fighting these Europeans. And this is in 1715. In the Carolinas. How many of us got family from the Carolinas? I do. This is them fighting their invaders. Now, what's back here but palaces? Palaces. Look at these big ass houses, palaces. Look at these. All right, so what are you seeing? Did this invader build these palaces? No, you have a kingdom they're taking down. A kingdom they're taking down. And over there in the Californians, you had the rulership of who? Queen Califia. Queen Califia.
Javi and Washita Mound Builders.
But, like I said, I'm going to interrupt the shit out of you. I keep wanting to show you this picture. And I keep getting sidetracked. All right, look. More Negroes, right? Now, this is 1816 in San Jose. This is Califa's territory. This is California. This is 1816. These are the people of Califia in 1816. More. Indians playing a game at a California mission in California. These are the people of Califia. Look at these dreads. Remember her dreads we showed at the top? Look at their dreads. Look at their headdresses. 18. Well, the other one's 1816, so I guess it's around the same time. But they're at a mission, so they have already been invaded because they're playing at a California mission. All right, you got Indians hunting in San Francisco, California. Again, the people of Califia. What else you got? An emblem of America. Now, remember this beautiful picture of this beautiful woman with her bow and arrow. And they're going to call her a what? An allegorical figure, shown full length, standing to the left, head tilted to the right, wearing a leopard skin. California tribes. Actually, the headdress suggests one of the black California tribes. And the spotted animal skin could be California bobcat. She's repping Cali, yo. And you got to know it that she's rocking the leopard skin in California. And they're calling her a what? An allegorical figure. Quote, allegorical figure shown full length. So she's a myth. This is mythology. This is Califia. This is bow and arrow. She's a queen. An emblem of America. And then what's the other emblem of America? Oh, look at her with her flag and her eagle looking down on the little black Indians. Their emblem of America, 1798. And the British engraver John Fairbairn. This is real life paintings, yo. And this is you, the Negro, down here. But you used to be up here. This is Califia. This is your emblem.
As well as the following. Ancient indigenous black nations of America: California blacks, Olmecs. Washita, Mound Builders, Louisiana/Midwest. Yamasee, Southeast.
Let me take it back. I know I interrupted you. Let me take it back.
56,000, 100,000 years ago. It is now also an archaeological fact that the true original people of the Americas included many nations, and the black Californians were one of them, as descendants of the Olmecs, West Africa Manding, Egyptians, kings of Kush, and the first emperor of China, Shangdis, Shang dynasty.
And again, you heard kings of Kush, which is what? Ethiopia, which is what? Abyssinia, which is what? Prester John, the emperor of the Abyssinians. Queen Sheba, Ethiopia, Kush. Back to Califia. Same shit. Same shit. What did they do to your parallel timelines in history?
Other ancient civilizations occupying California in the distant past include members of Black Mojave and Washita Mound Builders, as well as the following. Ancient indigenous black nations of America: California blacks, Olmecs. Washita, Mound Builders, Louisiana/Midwest. Yamasee, Southeast. Iroquois. Cherokee. Blackfoot. Pequot and Mohegans, Connecticut. Dairy Night, Panama. History of the California blacks. The mighty California blacks were a powerful military-savvy civilization, with shipbuilders, priest-scientists, traders, and empire builders. These elite seafarers traveled all over the globe trading in gold-tipped spears and precious stones. Masters of commerce, this highly sophisticated society practiced, as part of their religious ceremonies, astronomy, tracking celestial Sirius star systems, scared science, geometry, and mathematics. They were nautical wizards of longitude, latitude, master builders of complex housing, political systems, and captains of the open seas, as well as arts and music enthusiasts. They were also worshippers of the Egyptian gods Horus, Osiris, Isis, Wadjet, sun god, Ra, and the universality of the concept of Ma'at.
Again, you just heard Ma'at, right? So we're talking about Egypt, we're talking about Atlantis. So if this Queen Califia is coming out of the same Atlantis, and she's rocking all these islands outside of California, including California, into the Four Corners and even Mexico, connected to the same kingdom we're talking about, the same Anasazi, the same situation. So now we're talking about what? We're talking about different tribes, right? So if she's rocking the maternal situation, she's rocking, who knows what gods her people were rocking with, as they just laid all these other people. But if we're looking in terms of the Queen of Sheba, and how Sheba was converted by Solomon, right? And she started seeing things as the one true creator, the one true God, the one true situation, and then converting her people into understanding the law of the creator, taught by King David, taught by Solomon, the understanding of the creation, their creator in creation, the basics of the law. And that's what she started directing her people into. So we're surfing that wave. We're seeing, did the same thing happen with this Caliph? Can it, be a continuous parallel that's going on with Sheba and Caliph? So, let's get that again.
Housing, political systems, and captains of the open seas, as well as arts and music enthusiasts. They were also worshippers of the Egyptian gods Horus, Osiris, Isis, Wadjet, sun god, Ra, and the universality of the concept of Mot. And
all right, so we're not saying that Califia is worshiping all this, but she's saying that these indigenous tribes that were here were worshiping this stuff. So we know if Atlantis is here, then Egypt is here, then clearly those hijacks are originating here as Poseidon, whose son is Atlas, and Atlantis is based on that here. Then came Egypt out of here after the 18th dynasty. That's the wave we're surfing on that. So if we include this and we put that with that, then we got the original hijack happening here. That's why the lands were sunken here in the days of Peleg, where the earth divided.
how ethical behavior was the norm. The goddess Mot represents truth, justice, righteousness, and world order, the supreme ethical paradigm that dictated the behavior of the California blacks and the civilizations of ancient America. The California blacks, 11 Empire was ruled by a succession of queens, as was the custom in many ancient African nations. This unfamiliar practice observed by the naive Spaniards is surely how the myth of the nymph, Amazon queen legend, who hated and killed all baby boys and men, came into existence. Their matriarch societies were based on maternal values, decadence and relationships were determined through the female line, a practice that was very common in West Africa and throughout the ancient world. This remarkable multicultural, highly spiritual religious civilization thrived for thousands of years and is duly noted in several recent discoveries, including ancient cave art dating back tens of thousands of years. Over 100,000 cave and rock art pictures, symbols, and ancient artifacts can be found at Crystal Lake, California, now a restricted United States Army base, and thousands of newly discovered cave and rock art found in 2014 in the highlands of Mexico. The photos of recently discovered cave art show one thing for sure. They were not a hunter-gatherer tribe, but a complex, highly advanced, thriving civilization that prospered way before the arrival of any Europeans, Indians, or Clovis people.
Here it again.
Mexico. The photos of recently discovered cave art show one thing for sure. They were not a hunter-gatherer tribe, but a complex, highly advanced, thriving civilization that prospered way before the arrival of any Europeans.
They were not a hunter-gatherer tribe, but a complex what?
And thousands of newly discovered cave and rock art found in 2014 in the highlands of Mexico. The photos of recently discovered cave art show one thing for sure. They were not a hunter-gatherer tribe, but a complex, highly advanced, thriving civilization that prospered way before the arrival of any Europeans, Indians.
A complex, highly advanced civilization that prospered and thrived way before the arrival of these European hijacks.
Or Clovis people.
And what they're calling the Native American Indians. The Native American Indians, which is just a hoax. It's a farce, because these are the indigenous people. How can you have a different image that's being given you today than this? This is your last noble image, Negro. This is the king that was rocking and ruling here, that Columbus said he's looking for. This is what they took down. This is what they benefited off of the takedown of. How can you have a different image of a Native American than this? Come on, man. How did he go from there to there? How can it get more OG than this? An emblem of America, but they want to call you a what? An allegorical figure. A myth. Preston Johnson myth. Moses is a myth. Everything's a myth. Because they're looking way over there, and everything's right here. Everything's right here. But they can't go near the Grand Canyon. Like my brother Hiram keeps on dropping. There's over 200 or 300,000 acres that they haven't even seen. They haven't even walked up on. They haven't even touched. They can't even get close to that stuff. It's protected. What is it protected from? What's protecting it?
Through our high-tech in-house CGI experiment, conducted recently on ancient cave art, we were able to back-engineer some of the ancient art. What we discovered was truly amazing. CGI graphic art techniques were used thousands of years ago.
Wow.
Some art appears to be created using computer-generated technology and 21st century animation.
Wow.
What is revealed is intriguing and very surprising, a unique first-hand glimpse at life in ancient America. Some have low pixelation. However, all are in beautiful color, depicting cave art/pictures of worship.
Alright, time out. Y'all heard what they just said. That based on their modern technology, they are revealing that these things have another level of pixelization. These are not just carvings. I said they were done with high technology, CGI. What? And you see this cross, right? So this cave cross is indigenous, and we just broke down the north, south, east, and west, and how when these, Europeans, right, when they came and rode up on us, they were flying this flag looking for who? Prester John. They were flying a friendly symbol to this Prester John. They were looking to hijack and find someone who was conquering all these Islam situations, Mohammedan situations. This Prester John, this Mongolian ruler of the Cariates, this King David, that's being written about all throughout the, 1100s, 1200s, 1300s, 1400s, 1500s, everyone looking for Prester John. And you see this cross. So they're flying this flag looking for this figure because they think it's going to help them against the Moors, against the Muslims, against the, any Islamic situation that they're going through in Europe, in Spain. And they came way over here looking for something to turn their destiny around because they was getting their ass whooped by everybody. And they found peaceful people.
Sacred ancient and Egyptian symbols, including the cross, snakes, gods, marriage ceremonies,
including the
graphic
cross.
art techniques were used thousands of years ago.
Listen up.
And thousands of newly discovered cave and rock art found in 2014 in the highlands of Mexico. The photos of recently discovered cave art show one thing for sure. They were not a hunter-gatherer tribe, but a complex, highly advanced, thriving civilization that prospered way before the arrival of any Europeans, Indians, or Clovis people. Through our high-tech in-house CGI experiment, conducted recently on ancient cave art, we were able to back-engineer some of the ancient art. What we discovered was truly amazing. CGI graphic art techniques were used thousands of years ago.
Wow.
Some art appears to be created using computer-generated technology and 21st century animation. What is revealed is intriguing and very surprising, a unique first-hand glimpse at life in ancient America. Some have low pixelation. However, all are in beautiful color, depicting cave art/pictures of worship, sacred ancient and Egyptian symbols, including the cross, snakes, gods, marriage ceremonies, underwater fishing, cave diving, scuba mask, electricity, guns, gold mining, and other high-tech capabilities.
Guns?
The California blacks lived by a strict moral ethics code, living in harmony with the people, animals, land, sea, earth, sun, and heavenly planets. Their wood-built homes, official dwellings, and structures were arranged in grandeur and complicity, from holy sites, cliffs residence, monumental buildings, scared caves and mounds that were enhanced and decorated magnetically in silk, gold, diamonds, and precious stones. Some appear to have illumination, electricity. Queen Califia and the California blacks were all directly or indirectly related to our descendants of the Olmecs of South America, West African Nile Valley, kings of Kush, Emperor Ramesses the Great and the Yellow Emperor, Shangdi of China. The black mound builders of the Washita, Washita Moors, nation, an independent civilization, are also descendants of the Olmecs who successfully lived alongside of their cousins, California blacks, in peace, while engaging in boat building, seafaring, trade and commerce for thousands of years. Descendants of Ham. The history of the original black people of California is not mentioned in most American history books.
Now, if we're talking Ethiopian, then we're talking about sons of Cush, and we're going with that narrative, then yes, we're talking about descendants of Ham that are here. But if Ham is Zeus, according to Greek mythology, Poseidon, right, son of Zeus, then we have this Zeus Atlantis hijacking America already. So they already are children of Ham, based on them being children of this Zeus Poseidon situation. Already happening in Atlantis, already happening here. I mean, what kind of technology are we talking about where continents are being sunk? If the Creator's sinking continents to protect what? So yeah, if we're talking Sheba, then we're talking Ethiopia, Abyssinia. If we're talking, along that same Ham narrative, then yes, Califia would be the same. She would be, of the descendants of Ham. Now, how far does that, how far can we dig on that? How far is this Ham thing? Is these, we got to get to the indigenous truth of it all. This Ham, Shem, and Japheth, and all that stuff that we're just given as layups. You know what I'm saying? We're getting to it all because we realize, look, we got a lot of connection going on. We're talking about seeds of the Creator. We're talking about energy, frequency, and vibration. When you stay there, then you can surf the wave. But if you get lost in their titles and their narratives and their lineages and what they've given you to go off of, you be fucked. You know what I'm saying? I know there's young people, but honestly, that's what it is. You'll be fucked. So we got to get this. So, all right, I'll take that. Ham, this, that. Let's keep rocking.
The term Indian is used to classify all of the people found in the Americas when Columbus arrived. Yet, Columbus and his men, as well as people like Balboa and Peter Matter, do mention Ethiopians in the Caribbeans, Darien region of Panama, the coast of South America, California, and other areas. According to these invaders, these black indigenous people were the descendants of Ham, a Bible reference. It was specifically those with black skin and kinky/curly hair that the Spaniards and other Europeans were instructed to capture, kill, and or enslave rather.
Now, here's where it gets fun. And again, they keep throwing this Ham out so they can act like these were not Shemitic people. That these were not people of Shem. That these were not Israelites. That Prester John was not King David. So, if there were tribes of Ham, as clearly Canaan and Canaan, Canada, all the Canaans, all the situation. Clearly, we had all these different tribes here, but they just try to cover it all up as, oh, they're all children of Ham. But then they try to give you some drop right after that. So listen how they give that quick pivot one more time.
America, California, and other areas. According to these invaders, these black indigenous people were the descendants of Ham.
All right, so these black indigenous people were the descendants of Ham. All these black people in America. That's what white people try to get on the comments all the time, even now. Be like, you're just judging the Ham, da-da-da-da-da. There's no way you have anything to do with King David. They've never clearly looked into Prester John. They clearly never seen the connections and have gotten that far. So, all right. What else do we get after that, bit of hijack? Is there some drop?
A Bible reference. It was specifically those with black skin and kinky/curly hair that the Spaniards and other Europeans were instructed to capture, kill.
Bang. It was specifically Negro people with, they're calling Ethiopians, as we know Ethiopian is just code word for dark, as India is code word for dark. There's a lot of things that spin out of India and Indios and Indias and Indian and all that kind of stuff. But when they referred to it, they were just talking about the dark people on the far, far west, or what they call the far east, which is the far west. So now we realize, and now they're saying that Columbus specifically was head-hunting Negroes. Kinky hair, curly hair, what?
In other areas. According to these invaders, these black indigenous people were the descendants of Ham,
Bullshit.
A Bible reference. It was specifically those with black skin and kinky/curly hair that the Spaniards and other Europeans were instructed to capture, kill, and or enslave rather than Christianize them.
So rather than Christianize them, why? Why were they instructed to murder dark people with kinky curly hair rather than convert them? Because they were the lineage. They keep saying Ethiopians, and they were called Ethiopians. Well, you have Prester John of the Abyssinians, the Ethiopian. And he's found here because these are the Ethiopias here. Here's Ethiopia, there's Ethiopia. Here's India, there's India. Don't get tricked up on this shit. It's all Ethiopia. It's all India. That's a generic thing. But what tribe were these people? What kingdoms were they taking down with these papal bulls? Prester John, emperor of the Abyssinians. And they said specifically go after people that look like him. Specifically go after the people that look like Queen Sheba, Queen Califia. Or as they call it, an allegorical, a myth. Wearing leopard skin, indigenous to the black California tribes. An emblem of America. Well, if this is an emblem of America, that means that this is what America looked like. This is what America looked like. Copper colored races. Let me throw my laptop again.
Based on the Edict of the mid-1400s. A History of the African Olmecs, published by 1st Book Library. The black Californians were not American Indians but indigenous people of African ancestry.
Man, they're going to keep doing that to y'all. I know, it gets frustrating. I'm trying. But you keep saying that they're indigenous people of African ancestry. And all you're just saying is that they come from this area. Not anything indigenous here. Not anything indigenous here. Not anything indigenous here. All the lands here. That's that bullshit, yo. That's that bullshit because they're not proving that. They're just saying stuff. You're from Ham. You're from Africa. You're from Ham. You're from Africa. The same thing, the invader. So they're trying to hip you. Oh, the invader, the invader. But they're repeating the invader. You're from Ham. You're from Africa. You're from Ham. You're from Africa.
A Bible reference. It was specifically those with black skin and kinky/curly hair that the Spaniards and other Europeans were instructed to capture, kill, and slash or enslave rather than Christianize them, based on the Edict of the mid-1400s. A History of the African Olmecs, published by 1st Book Library. The black Californians were not American Indians but indigenous people of African ancestry. As a mixed culture, they closely resembled today's African Americans and Melanesians from the Pacific Island.
Now, these Melanesians never say they come from Africa. They are indigenous to those islands. They were there before the islands even separated in the days of Peleg, where the lands divided. Oh, but now they closely resemble African Americans. Now you hear African Americans, so you know they're talking about Negroes. So these people look like Negroes. Well, all of us look like Negroes. I mean, hey, according to my man Carlin, where's that at? Where's my man Carlin at? Hey, according to George Carlin, let's read it together. Descriptions of original North American Indians. So this is one of your first descriptions coming out of someone, you know, who's very well respected as an explorer. All right. All primitive tribes, not some, not most. George Carlin is saying all primitive tribes, all primitive tribes, people known in America, emblem of America. All primitive tribes, people known in America, are dark, copper color shades of brown with jet black hair. This is the emblem of America. Again, your 1828 Webster Dictionary lays it out. Copper color races found here by the Europeans, but now refers to the Europeans. The term America now refers to the Europeans born here. Because according to the Doctrine of Discovery, Manifest Destiny, Papal Bulls, 1452, they're allowed to take all your stuff because they are the successors of the King Alfonsos and whatnot. Right? They're the successors of those that will inherit your lands. So that's what's written in for them in their Papal Bull. But according to Carlin, it's not most, but all primitive tribes known in America are dark copper-colored shades of brown with jet black hair. Catlin also notes hair texture. Most possessed curls in the extreme, quote-unquote, nappy hair, and every level of wavy hair in between. Hair is fine and soft or coarse and harsh. Will we have fine soft hair in our lineage and coarse and harsh? It's all part of being a Negro, baby. It's all part of being a copper colored shade of brown, baby. Some have straight hair. That's all a part of us too. We have all these genetics, but we have our seed and we know who we are. Some have straight hair, most do not. All primitive tribes known in America are dark copper colored shades of brown. And what are we saying? Columbus specifically went after who?
These black indigenous people were the descendants of Ham, a Bible.
So now they're all part of Ham, right? Now all the people in America are Negroes, but now they all got to be Ham. You see the hypocrisy of this. So let's go.
Reference. It was specifically those with black skin and kinky/curly hair that the Spaniards and other Europeans were instructed to capture, kill, and slash or enslave rather than Christianize them, based on the edict of the mid-1400s.
Whoa, based on the edict of the mid-1400s. What happened in the mid-1400s? The Papal Bull, Diversas, 1452. Based on that edict, they went after Negroes, Saracens, right? Pagans, right? They call you lots of things.
Of Panama, the coast of South America, California, and other areas. According to these invaders, these black indigenous people were the descendants of Ham, a Bible reference. It was specifically those with black skin and kinky/curly hair that the Spaniards and other Europeans were instructed to capture, kill, and slash or enslave rather than Christianize them, based on the edict of the mid-1400s.
So they couldn't convert them, so they killed them. And who did they convert? The other ones that were not Negroes, that came later. And that's your typical Native American today that is now getting the benefits from all the stuff, you know. Look, these are the treaties that you don't have benefits anymore. All right. When you go to the blood quantum laws, the blood quantum laws are Indian blood laws, is legislation enacted in the United States to define membership in Native American tribes or nations. Blood quantum refers to describing the degree of ancestry for an individual or specific racial and ethnic group. For instance, half by the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians, equivalent to one parent. 1/4 by the Hopi tribe of Arizona, equivalent to one grandparent. Look at these. Look at the number play. 1/8 by the Apache tribe of Oklahoma, equivalent to one great grandparent. 1/16 by the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, North Carolina, equivalent to one great grandparent. 1/32 by the Kaw Nation, equivalent to one great grandparent. Its use started in 1705 when Virginia, adopted laws that limited colonial civil rights of Native Americans and persons of half or more American ancestry. So it limited colonial civil rights of Native Americans of persons of half or more Native American ancestry. So if they had less than half, according to these numbers and these blood quantum laws, oh man, you heard about the one drop rule, but damn, the quantum shit. Now what happened? The concept of blood quantum was not widely applied until the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934. That's when they're reorganizing your bloodline. They're reorganizing your inheritance. They're reorganizing you, Negro. They're changing your name to color. They're changing you to Negro, colored, African American, African. They're putting the African on you just to take your indigenous rights. Why? Because they would go through all this trouble of the blood quantum laws to do this. So yes, they would also tell you that your ass came from Africa. And every time these people keep saying that you came from Africa, they're still following the same shit. But they're dropping some drop, but they're still dropping the same colonization, invasion, lie to jack you from your shit. Because as soon as you say that, they have your shit, because you're not claiming to be indigenous anymore. And if the indigenous people, if the emblems of America look like this, then they can't keep going Africa on you. Because when they do that, what's their goal? The concept of blood quantum was not widely applied until the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934. The government used it to establish the individuals who could be recognized as Native American. So they're using the blood quantum laws to establish or reorganize the individuals who could be recognized as Native Americans. So that's not you anymore, right? Curly head, curls to the extreme, right? All Native American tribes, Native America, are dark copper-colored shades of brown. Dark copper-colored shades of brown with jet black hair. Most possess curls in the extreme. Most possess curls in the extreme. All are dark and most of them had curly, nappy hair. All are dark and most of them had curly, nappy hair. All are dark. Most of them had curly, nappy hair. This is your emblem. These are Negroes. This is you. Why did they do it? So that you would not be recognized as Native American and be eligible for financial and other benefits under treaties. Even the Moorish treaties in the 1400s with Zia S.L. signed as a Moabite that were made or land of sale. So you won't benefit anymore under the treaties that were made or the sales of land under the blood quantum laws. Man, let's go.
A History of the African Olmecs, published by 1st Book Library. The Black Californians were not American Indians but indigenous people of African ancestry.
Hijack.
As a mixed culture, they closely resembled today's African Americans and Melanesians from the Pacific Islands. The history of the Black Californians appear to be conveniently erased, ignored, shrouded in mystery, myth, and ignorance, all in an effort to keep our...
Shrouded in mystery and myth? Shrouded in mystery and myth? Califia, they're calling you an allegorical figure. Prester John, you're just a myth. But then the authors are calling you in the Lost Tribes of Promised Lands by Ronald Sanders, he's calling you the last noble image of the Negro. We're calling you the Queen. The Queen of California and the islands connected back to Eden. But you're an allegorical figure. You're just a myth.
Our history obscure by not mentioning that the original people of California and America were Black and American Indians whose civilizations existed together peacefully thousands of years before Columbus. Yet the Black Californians are not unknown to the Spanish invaders and colonialists whose descendants are part of the population of Mexico, California, and the southwestern United States, and who are no different from the settlers and colonialists from Spain, England, France, Portugal, and elsewhere. In fact, the Spaniards who mention the legend of Queen Califia, who ruled a land at the edge of the world, where the women were warriors and decked in gold, was in fact a Black California, Olmec queen. Descendants of great kings of Kush and queens of West Africa, Olmecs, Nubia, Egypt, and China. The California Blacks, Kingdom of Utila, Atlan, California, numbered over 10 million, with the...
Atlan, right? Atlan, Atlantis, Atlan, Atlantis, Atlan, Atlantis, Aslan, Azteca, Southwest. It's all the same shit, man. It's all the same thing. They keep throwing the Kush out there, which is the Ethiopia out there, which is the same Sheba. That's why I said, is it a stretch to bring in Queen Sheba into the equation of Queen Califia?
Women were warriors and decked in gold.
Decked in
was
gold.
In fact a Black California, Olmec queen. Descendants of great kings of Kush and queens of West Africa, Olmecs, Nubia, Egypt, and China. The California Blacks, Kingdom of Utila, Atlan, California, numbered over 10 million, with the population exceeding 25 million, including Pacific Islands nations, Hawaii, and South America.
Now, what's your population today, Negro? What do they say, 25 million, if that?
The Spanish explorers along the California coast were among the first to see and inquire about the Black Californians. Upon arriving along the California shores, they saw a number of black people with ships. They asked the Indians who they were, and the Indians replied that these black curly-haired people were of the land of California and traded with people across the sea, the Pacific Ocean, by sailing back and forth. Where were these black Californians going in the Pacific? They were trading with island nations, people in Hawaii and throughout the South Pacific, where the black population has always been very large and widespread. In fact, When Magellan arrived in the Philippines, there were large numbers of Negritos who were well organized and had a strong population.
Stop. You said Philippines, not me. Because when we go on this site, you know what I mean, America's been at war 93% of the time. All right, so you got 222 years out of 239 years in 1776. And we say, well, what's the first wars of this corporation? And we go, oh, look at this little slither of blue where we weren't at war. But you're thinking Afghanistan, right? You're thinking Middle East. You're thinking Russia. You're thinking World War this. Well, how far do we have to go to get to World War what? It starts with you, so-called Negro. It starts with you, Cherokee, Califia. It starts with you. It starts with the Cherokee, Pennamite, Yankee, American Revolution. All this revolution shit was them having their rebirth, their renaissance, a continuation of their renaissance, their revolution against melanin. Northwest Indian War. Look at all these Indian War, 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 Barbary War, Tartar, Barber, Greek. Alright, so you got all these Indian wars, and I'm still going. You could stop me when you don't see an Indian war. All of America's war is against you. Why? Because you are warriors. Why? Because you are who you are. You are warriors. You've been fighting them. This is the documentation, some more substantiating evidence. This is a painting of what they were seeing with these Negro warriors going up against their invaders in Carolina by the Dutch painter Peter Schenk, alright? Painting Negroes fighting the European invader. It's always been about you. It's always been about the emblem of America. And all these wars, again, are up against you. Now, they mentioned the Philippines, so we got to go all the way up here. We still talking Indian wars. We ain't got to no wars that are foreign yet. But then you see this Philippine war, banana, Philippine, banana, Philippine, all through from the 1900s, from 1899. They say no major war, doesn't mean there wasn't no war. So up until 1940. So that's 41 years of them fighting in the Philippines. And what did this robot just say about the Philippines?
Nations, people in Hawaii and throughout the South Pacific where the black population has always been very large and widespread.
Hawaii and South Pacific where the black population, so when you look at the indigenous people in the Philippines, you see Negroes.
In fact, when Magellan arrived in the Philippines, there were large numbers of Negritos who were well organized and had a strong population.
Well organized, that means they weren't savages, these Negroes. These indigenous Indios or Ethiopians or whatever you want to call these people. These Shemites. They want to label us all as Hamites, right? Because it makes them feel better to know that they weren't conquering Jerusalem and that Jerusalem is not Peru.
Black traders and black Africoid who had been in the Americas for thousands of years were also spread in the Mississippi Valley, eastern United States, Mexico, and the Caribbean.
Mississippi.
Among the groups were the Washita, the Yamasee, Guel, Califia, Churas of Brazil, Afro-Darient of Panama, Choco of Colombia, Olmec, Mende, Shi of Mexico, West African, Egyptian, Black Chinese, and Guanani of South America, among others. Rafinesque mentions a number of black groups in his work, The Primitive Black Nations of America. Friends of the Society of Philadelphia, 1833, one thing is for certain. The Europeans, Americans, and Spaniards never mistook American Indians for black Americans. They always referred to blacks, Negro African types, as Moors blacks, Ethiopians, and the people of the Queen of Sheba. What happened to the California blacks and the original blacks of...
So you notice how they separate their Indians. So now they're talking hijackville. Now they're talking about the Indian that they're packaging that's going to take all of what they're signing in their treaties, benefit from what the benefits, the benefits, what? The financial and other benefits under treaties that were made or sales of land. It's all about land and benefits, land and benefits. So these Indians are now being, we're separated from these Ethiopians, but they're going to label them Africans. They're going to label them Hamites, right? Because they want all of the land and benefits eligible for financial and other benefits under treaties that were made or sales of land. This is the hijack under blood quantum laws. Straight up on your Facebook.
California and the Southwest. The extermination of the blacks of California was indeed the largest act of genocide in American history.
Bang.
The idea, strange as it may appear, never occurred to them, the Indians, that they were suffering for the great cause of civilization, which, in the natural course of things, must exterminate Indians. Special Agent J. Ross Brown, Indian Affairs. California was one of the last areas of the New World to be colonized. It wasn't until 1769 that the first mission San Diego, Delaware, Alcala in California, the first of 21 missions, would become the primary means for the Spaniards to subjugate the Indians.
1769 is when they first rolled up on the indigenous Negroes in Cali. 1769. So when we see this, painting, man, I'm glad I had this up, man. Love to Real History, www.com. Y'all go check it out, man. Check it out. When you got this painting, man, the Yamasee is getting down in 1715. This is in the Carolinas. This is on their way. They haven't even set foot in California during the time of this painting for another 50 years. Another 50 years before they set foot in California. And look at the Negroes fighting them here. Then they moved finally further west and finally got to California. Finally got to California and met up with the Californians in the Bay Area. 1816. Look at them, man, like damn. These people doing the ceremonial dance, the Ohlone people in San Jose in 1860, they rode up like, damn. These people, man, they got conquered. They had a mission right now, like, damn. Look at this dude standing with, like, damn. He's standing like, damn. He got 10 boots on, standing like, damn. And these brothers, man, they just, all the way out, like, damn. And she definitely like, damn. Damn. Is that a fact? I'm just an allegorical figure. Damn. Damn.
Genius. The leader of this effort was Junipero Serra. Disputing what history books currently tell you, the missions were coercive religious, forced labor camps. Through bribes, military, and even onslaught European diseases, that usually targeted children, the colonizers ensured that eventually sick and desperate natives would come to the mission for help. The people taken there had their children taken from them, and harsh, manual labor was the rule. Beating.
So they made him come. Look at this, y'all. This is the making of Hijack City. So they got him sick with diseases. They targeted their children. Listen to the plan of attack. Listen to how they took down your kingdom. Listen to how they came out your children first. And when you have them celebrating Christmas and Halloween and all that bullshit and Easter, they're still coming at your children first because the same plan is still in action. It's in a different dimension. It's in a different frequency. It's a frequency war. They're still coming after your children first. Then they get sick. Then you have to go to them. And then they separate you. Let's go.
Onslaught European diseases that usually targeted children. The colonizers ensured that eventually sick and desperate natives would come to the mission for help. The people taken there had their children taken from them, and harsh.
So they go to the missions and the children are then taken from them. That's how they got them. That's how they suckered them into these missions. Look at, man, the Most High. All praise the Most High. Because these links are separate. I got these up for different lessons and different things. But then they all start linking, man. You know, I never know why. I never know why, but look at this beautiful thing, man. So now you see these, look at this brother in his 10 boots. He's like, damn. Everyone's like, damn, they had a mission. This is Indians playing a game at a California mission. All right, so they just jiving over here. They talking to each other like, damn, what we gonna do? But they were brought there because their children get sick and different things happen, and then that's how they get them. So they spread the disease. They take out your chiefs. They take out your priests, all that. Then they get to your children. Then you need their help. Somehow you got to go to submission. Man, this shit is a sick game, bro. This is a sick game, man.
Natives who died in the missions reached 8. The first mission San Diego, Delaware, Alcala in California. The first of 21 missions.
21 in Cali.
The primary means for the Spaniards to subjugate the Indigenous.
Indigenous.
The leader of this effort was Junipero Serra. Disputing what history books currently tell you, the missions were coercive religious, forced labor camps. Through bribes, military, and
forced labor camps. Negroes, can you hear me? People, can you hear me? The same FEMA camps that's being set up, the same forced labor camps, so-called Hitler camps, right? The same situation, the same frequency, right? We got into the Hitler job, but, you know, we got a lot of the correlation. And yes, Hitler did experiment with the 440, putting it on his peoples. And now they got the 440 putting it on you. Same frequency, the same camps are being set up as these missions.
Even onslaught European diseases that usually targeted children. The colonizers ensured that eventually sick and desperate natives would come to the mission for help. The people taken there had their children taken from them, and harsh, manual labor was the rule. Beatings and filthy living conditions were common. The death rate at the mission was appalling. By 1818, the percentage of natives who died in the missions reached 86%.
Wow.
Over 81,000 converts eventually managed to successfully flee the missions. Soon after, there were Indian revolts. The San Diego mission was burnt down in 1775 during the Kumeyaay.
1775, the San Francisco mission was burnt down. Then you have 1776. Wait, 1775. The mission was burnt down. So it could be the same one. Burnt down, 1775, in Cali. But you have 7076. This corporations getting started, and then they go to war against Cherokees, Indians, Indians. Get the picture? I mean, you get the picture? Do you get the picture?
A rebellion. Mojave Indians destroyed 2 missions in a dramatic revolt in 1781. Santa Barbara and Santa Ynez missions were destroyed in 1824.
1824.
In 1834, Mexican Governor Jose Figueroa freed the Indians from the mission system and stripped the friars of their power.
Wow.
More than 100,000 native people had died because of the mission system. But that did not mean things went back to how it was before. The Spanish didn't give the land back. Instead, the land was distributed to political insiders and a system of ranches developed. By the start of the Mexican-American War, 26 million acres were controlled by just 813 ranchers. Gold.
So now these ranchers are now these controlling families. Now you got these London companies and these other English and these British coming over with the 7, you know what I mean? And alright, see how this is all going. So now you got these plantations. You're on a plantation, but there's some ranchers, some middleman, and you're on your own land, in your own house, on your own land that they're now calling a plantation. Picking cotton on your own land. They just rode up on you. They just found you here.
Gold rush and genocide. After Johann Sutter became a Mexican citizen in 1840, he was awarded a land grant of 48,827 acres by the government. On June 18, 8141, He and his partner James Marshall began Sutter's Mill shortly after. While building the sawmill, Marshall discovered gold the morning of January 24, 1848. History in the state of California would forever change for the original natives of the land. Ironically, the gold rush that followed didn't enrich either man, and they too were forced off the land by whites more ruthless than them. In the chaos of the gold rush, almost all of the enslaved indigenous people and Indians were killed. Many others escaped. In 1840, there were 5 million California blacks and only about 4,000 Europeans in California. Only 400 of them were Americans. Now a horde of 100,000 adventurers, gold seekers, and murderous criminals descended on California. The authorities were completely overwhelmed. The natives faced catastrophe of biblical proportions. Numerous vigilante-type paramilitary troops were established whose principal occupation seems to have been to kill blacks/Indians, and kidnap their children. Groups such as the Humboldt Home Guard, the Eel River Minutemen and the Placer Blades, among others, terrorized local natives. The local authorities not only ignored the genocide in their midst, they encouraged it. Rewards ranged from $5 for every severed head in Shasta City in 1855 to 25 cents for a scalp in Honey Lake in 1863.
1855, they were given $5 for severed Negro heads, man. Have these people changed? I mean, the KKK ain't got shit on that. Severing heads for $5, man. This is the precipice. This is what we're dealing with. $5 for severed Negro heads. Curly head to the extreme. Prester John in there.
One resident of Shasta
Califia.
City wrote about how he remembers seeing men bring mules to town, each laden with 8 to 10 native heads. Other laws called for collective punishment for the whole village for crimes committed up to the destruction of the entire village and all of its inhabitants. These policies led to the extinction of as many as 150 native nations. Mighty Black Californians' last stand.
Extinction of 150 Negro native nations, man.
The empire of the California blacks became a victim of Spanish colonialism, European expansion, the slave trade and gold rush. Many communities, men, women, and children were killed, enslaved and worked on ranches in California. Others were shipped to Europe and down south as part of the slave market. Other California blacks courageously...
Were shipped to Europe? So the slave trade did happen, but they were shipping them from here to Europe and other islands.
And gold rush. Many communities, men, women, and children were killed, enslaved and worked on ranches in California. Others were shipped to Europe and down south as part of the slave market. Other California blacks courageously continued fighting and defending their ancestral land until the mid to late 1870s. The California gold rush would strike the fatal blow and the impending destruction of the California's first civilization, land of the blacks. Like the California Mongoloid Indian races who were hunted down and killed in California at $50 a head, the same genocidal practice was carried out against black Aboriginals in Australia who were made to reject their native culture and accept European ways. The black Californians suffered a similar fate. During the 1800s, after many years of war with Spanish invaders of the Southwest, with Mexico, and the United States, the empire of the California blacks was completely diminished. The survivors blended into the African American black population of California and the United States. Their descendants still exist among millions of black Californians today.
Their survivors are just mingled with everyone they're calling African American and Negro. You're going around today looking at indigenous people that have rights and have a heritage and are awakening.
One such family is the Blackmans of California. One book shows a picture of black Californians being marched into slavery by Spanish Californians on horseback. There is no doubt that since California was basically like the rest of the United States and partially segregated up until 1965, the black Californians who were found in the state when the Spanish arrived and continued to survive did not disappear. As the pictures above show, These blacks were similar in features to black Africans. Therefore, it would be easy for them to have become a part of the black population of California at a time when the black population was as high as 40% of the area.
People, we're not just talking about California, we're talking about all of the country. All of the land are us, mingled here, found here, copper-colored races. It ain't just California. This is a microcosm of a major event.
Hence, the black Aboriginal population of California today is the descendants, including the descendants of Africans from Mexico, freed slaves, and freed blacks from the eastern and southern United States.
Indigenous.
In retrospect, it is important that blacks in California understand our true history and realize that California was named after a real black queen, a descendant of one of the first black civilizations of the Americas, the Olmec, and that the original inhabitants of California, the people who have any claim and rights to any land, are the American Indians and black Californians who are in fact part of the black population of California today.
Claim your land. Claim your inheritance.
Problem with the condition of blacks in California today is the lack of knowledge of ownership and the lack of knowledge of history.
Lack of knowledge.
Blacks in California see their economic, political, and numerical power and influence as a shrinking minority in California, a state that has a significant black population for hundreds and thousands of years. Propositions that seek to hide the racial and ethnic origin of people continue the same genocidal policy carried out against the American Indians and black Californians. The shrinking numbers of blacks in California, from 40% before the 1800s to 7% today, has to do with the deliberate policies of genocide being implemented against blacks by political trickery and policies. In fact, propositions that aim to not classify race and ethnicity in California were just as evil as the hygiene program taken in Europe during World War II to determine who is Aryan and who was not.
And again, I know we're just talking about California, but it's really interesting how they're spinning this. So, it's kind of took me a while to catch on to it, but they're acting like the only so-called Negroes were only in California and everybody else is just Tonto, modern Native American hijack looking. They don't want to give it up, but they're giving up this Cali. They're giving up this Cali. What I'm telling you is a microcosm. And again, we got that already from Catlin. That all, not some, not just in California, but all indigenous tribes, not primitive, but indigenous tribes, people known in America are dark copper-colored shades of brown with jet black hair, most possess curls in the extreme, so-called nappy hair, as well as wavy and everything in between. So don't get it play and twisted about this California.
This time,
it's
the aim
everywhere.
is to anglicize the population, yet maintain a strata caste system where blacks, after losing their identity and culture, will be nothing but inferior copies of Anglo-Saxons. The Anglo-Saxons will continue to dominate and maintain their culture, but blacks will simply be copying them while being kept down without a culture, without an identity and, in many ways, without the essence and soul of what makes a people unique. As the hygiene program taken in Europe during World War II to determine who is Aryan and who was not. This time, the aim is to anglicize the population, yet maintain a strata caste system where blacks, after losing their identity and culture, will be nothing but inferior copies of Anglo-Saxons. The Anglo-Saxons will continue to dominate and maintain their culture, but blacks will simply be copying them while being kept down without a culture, without an identity and, in many ways, without the essence and soul of what makes a people unique.
No soul.
Facts, artifacts, pyramids, ancient bones, stone statues, cave art, calendars and archaeological discoveries within the last decade have all concluded that there was indeed a black warrior nation in California and they were at war with the Spanish, Mexican Spaniards and U.S. settlers until the mid-1800s. According
They were at war against the Spaniards, Mexican Spaniards, and what? I mean, we're just talking about the people that are at war. We're just talking about what's being painted around that time. We're just talking about the images that are being painted at that time. These are Negroes at war against these Spaniards, against these Anglo-Saxons that are looking to make them inferior copies, when we understand that they are the inferior copy. These are people of dominant genes. These are people that are being connected to the Oracle River in South America, in the Garden of Eden, and these mystical, allegorical lands like Eden that have allegorical figures like the emblem of America, Califia. We're only talking about Califia.
To the Black Book, Random House, 1974, the settlers and their armies were relieved when the Black Californians were pacified. The time has come for today's Black Californians to know their history and understand who was always in this state and who came during the period of colonialism. The idea that a person from another land whose ancestors commit genocide against American Indians and Black Californians has more right to any part of California is utterly absurd. There is no difference between a Spanish invader and settler and a French or Dutch one. They are still settlers and they cannot claim what is not theirs. Perhaps that is why the history of the Black Californians has been obscured, and perhaps that is why the genocide policies against Black Californians has led to a decrease in the population, and here are the reasons it should never be left out of history. Earthy Paradise, Island of California. Now I tell you about the strangest thing ever found anywhere in written text or in human memory. I tell you that on the right side of the Indies there was an island called California, which was very close to the region of the earthly paradise. This island is inhabited by black...
Very close to the region of the earthly paradise. Again, we're talking Eden. Love to my man Isaac 4 AD, man, the familiar man that's been dropping so much drop, connecting Califia to Eden. I'm just skimming the surface. I'm just giving you an intro of what's to come. But, come on now.
Strangest thing ever found anywhere in written text or in human memory. I tell you that on the right side of the Indies there was an island called California, which was very close to the region of the earthly paradise. This island is inhabited by black women, and there are no males among at all, for their lifestyles was similar to that of the Amazons. The island was made up of the wildest cliffs and the sharpest precipices found anywhere in the world. These women had energetic bodies and courageous, ardent hearts, and they were very strong. Their armor was made entirely of gold, which was the only metal found on the island, as
sounds like an allegory, right?
Were the trappings on the fierce beast that they rode once they were tamed. They lived in very well-designed caves. They had many ships they used to sail forth on their trade expeditions. Garcia Rodriguez de Montalco, Las Sergas de Esplandian, 15th century explorer, tells the story of a people who reigned, grew, and prospered in a land for thousands of years, whose population at its heights is said to be well over 35 million, that were very wealthy, religious, and spiritual, worshipping the earth, stars, sun, moon, and planets. Adventurous people, highly educated, family-oriented, lovers of the entire universe, plants, animals, and the weak. These multicultural descendants of the Olmecs, West Africans, Egyptians, and Black Chinese, bloodline and ancestry date back and encompass the greatest ancient civilization that has ever existed on the planet.
The greatest ancient civilization that's ever existed. The Black Chinese, the Asiatics, we're just connecting that back, all the way back.
The West Africa's Mali Empire, City of Gold, the 19th, 25th Egyptian dynasty of the kings of Kush, remises the Great and the First Empire of China's Shang dynasty, also known in pop culture as the Yellow Emperor. The discovery of an unknown people, omitted and lost to history, who have been relegated to myth, fairytale, or alien encounter all over the world. An advanced civilization that is responsible for the most monumental feats ever achieved. With advanced technology, mathematics, geometry, astronomy, and sacred science, stone and mound building skills, that has never been duplicated or explained.
It's never been duplicated or explained, so what did these people learn from these invaders? It seems like the invaders learned everything from them. They already had it here.
They say history is recorded by the winners. However, in this instance, that is a rule that needs to be challenged. Ancient American history started thousands of years before Columbus, and the many people who populated the land and past existence is everywhere in pyramids, stone heads, bones, tools, maps, calendars, mummies, cave art, and many more artifact examples. However, all seems to go unnoticed or written off as origin unknown. This lost civilization was a global people, and the original ancient Americans were descendants of the Olmecs, whose bloodline flows through West Africa, Egypt, and China. The founding fathers and mothers of the great kingdom of Utla, America, the empire of Atlan, on the island of California. *, the original name Utala, a Kushite word meaning to vacate. When Northern and Southern Atla united as one nation, Southern and Northern California, the plural name was used. The word for Atla became Atlan. 2 feathers adorned the California blacks' headdress, confirming the union of North and South America as was the custom when Upper and Lower Ancient Egypt allied.
So, Northern South America is now being referred to as Upper and Lower Egypt. Again, the Grand Canyon, Egypt was already here. And you're getting it in other substantiating sources.
2 feathers adorned the California blacks' headdress, confirming the union of North and South America as was the custom when Upper and Lower Ancient Egypt allied. Asterisk, this educational presentation was produced to dispel the European myths, deceptions, collusion, and intentional cover-ups of one of the greatest civilizations that ever lived. A forgotten chapter in ancient American history whose time has come. Queen Califia and the California blacks. False Euro myths. Not Indians. No culture of civilization. Headhunters. Cannibals. Did not practice human sacrifice. Naked savages. Only a women civilization. Amazon women killer of boy children. Hated men. Killed and captured all men. Raided other civilizations. Nymphs. Did not practice human sacrifice. We're not hunter-gatherers. Catholic Church genocide, the doctrine of discovery and U.S. expansion. No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property, without due process of law. This idea, which is a bedrock of American democracy, is from the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which was completed in 1787. The same year the U.S. government enacted the Northwest Ordinance, which created the first organized territory out of the region that is today Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Among the other regulations, the ordinance set forth a guiding principle for the treatment of Native Americans and their lands. The utmost good faith shall always be observed towards the Indians. Their lands and property shall never be taken without their consent, and, in their property rights...
Who would consent for their land and property to be stolen? Stolen. Who would consent to that? These are hypocritical laws.
And liberty shall never be invaded or disrupted. Just 7 years later, in 1794, the U.S. government sent a regiment led by General Matt Anthony Wayne to conquer a confederation of American Indian tribes attempting to keep their lands. At the Battle of the Fallen Timbers, a band of 800-plus Native Americans were slaughtered and 5,000 acres of crops were destroyed. The tribes in the region were forced to sign a treaty that limited them to the northern region of what is today's Ohio. In 1802, President Thomas Jefferson signed the Georgia Compact, which stated that in exchange for land, what is today's Alabama and Mississippi, the federal government would remove all American Indians within the territory of Georgia as soon as it could be done reasonably and peacefully. By 1830, the government passed the Indian Removal Act, which authorized the president to remove the remaining eastern Indians to lands west of the Mississippi. Between 1838 and 1839, under President Andrew Jackson, 15,000 Cherokee Indian nations were forcefully taken from their land, herded into makeshift forts, and made to march, some in chains for thousands of miles to present-day Oklahoma. Over 4,000 Cherokees died from hunger, disease, and execution on what they called Nunadalpsuni, or the Trail of Tears. By the late 1840s, almost all Native Americans had been removed and moved to lands west of the Mississippi. Although the Black Californian warriors continued fighting well into the late 1890s. Christian Empire. In 1095, at the beginning of the Crusades, Pope Urban II issued an edict, the Papal Bull Terra Nullius, meaning empty land. It gave the kings and princes of Europe the right to discover or claim land in non-Christian areas. The policy was extended in 1492 when Pope Nicholas V issued the Bull Romanus Pontifex.
Back to the Papal Bull, man. Love to Lex Will for, getting us on that. So here's some more of the Pontifex. Let's go.
Declaring war against all non-Christians throughout the world and authorizing the conquest of their nations and territories. These edicts treated non-Christians as uncivilized and subhuman, and therefore without rights to any land or nation. Christians claimed a God-given right to take control of all lands and used the idea to justify war, colonization, and even slavery. By the time Christopher Columbus set sail in 1492, this doctrine of discovery was a well-established idea in the Christian world. When he reached the Americas, Columbus performed ceremonies to take possession of all lands discovered, meaning all territory not occupied by Christians. Upon his return to Europe in 1493, Pope Alexander VI issued the bull Inter Cetera, granting Spain the right to conquer the lands that Columbus had already discovered and all lands that he might come upon in the future. The decree also expressed the Pope's wish to convert the natives of these lands to Catholicism in order to strengthen the Christian empire. In 1507...
Well, first you know that Columbus was not trying to convert you, but then later he said, well, convert them too. Go ahead and convert them to help strengthen the Nestorian Christian empire.
Pope Paul II issued the papal bull Sublimis Deus, which denounced the idea that Native Americans should be treated like irrational animals and used exclusively for our profit and service.
Thank you.
Pope Urban VIII, 1623-1644, formally excommunicated anyone still holding Indian slaves.
Thank you.
By this time, however, the doctrine of discovery was deeply rooted and led nonetheless to the conquering of non-Christian lands and people in every corner of the earth. Although the United States was founded on freedom from such tyranny, the idea of white people and Christians having certain divine rights was nevertheless ingrained in this young nation's policies. The slave trade and centuries of violence against black people depended upon the idea that non-whites were less human. The theft of indigenous peoples' lands require the same justification. In 1823, the doctrine of discovery was written into U.S. law as a way to deny rights to Native Americans. In 1845, a Democratic leader and prominent editor named John L. O'Sullivan gave the doctrine of discovery a uniquely American flavor when he coined the term, manifest destiny, to defend United States expansion and claims of new territory. The right of our manifest destiny to overspread and to possess the whole continent which Providence has given us for the development of the great experiment of liberty, is right such as that of the tree to the space of air and earth suitable for the full expansion of its principle and destiny of growth. The idea of manifest destiny was published in newspapers and debated by politicians. It furthered the scenes among U.S. citizens of an inevitable or natural right to expand the notion and to spread freedom and democracy.
To spread. What else spreads? Disease spread. What did they come with? Dis-ease. They came with toxins and poisons and sorcery. Poison your children, your chiefs, and your priests. What else functions like that in your body? We are a body. We're an organism rocking. Our body gets sick when we are out of order. Our body is sick when we are out of order. When we have too many hijacks, too many Atlantean hijacks. So if this is Sheba, she started rocking with Prester John. He started showing her order. They rocked together. They went down together. They got the fountain of youth together. They both right now walking around 30 years old. They got the fountain of youth, baby. But these parasites are spreading and spreading with manifest destiny. They think they can spread and just spread disease everywhere.
Democracy, although only deemed capable of self-government, which certainly did not include blacks or other native people. Whether called the doctrine of discovery or manifest destiny, the principles that stimulated U.S. thirst for land that have been disastrous for natives, indigenous blacks, and many others both in North America and abroad who lost life, liberty, and property as a result of United States expansion. The history of Christian law helps us understand how our leaders, many considered heroes and role models today, undertook monstrous acts in the name of liberty. California Blacks Cave Art, Olmec Heads. Although hundreds of thousands of ancient rock art and cave drawing exists in Crystal Lake, California dating back 50,000 years or more, a protected military base, all up and down the California coast in Mexico, Utah, New Mexico, and Colorado, among many other sites, official authorities continue to have no idea who created them. Although many discoveries over the last decade has indisputable proof and evidence of a great civilization of blacks living in America for thousands of years. The famous Olmec heads in Mexico, countless art, sculptures, figurines and archaeological discoveries. The fact that the academic community and mainstream media continue to ignore this head-in-the-sand approach to discovery is suspect. They refuse to acknowledge or disclose the true creators of the indigenous, the great black civilization that founded America and accomplished these great feats. One technological breakthrough I accomplished by using a Mac computer in an effort to study and find the royal color of purple color palettes, symbols, picks, and other related cave rock art with similarities in order to identify the origins of vast amounts of ancient art in so many places. So we back engineering some of the photographic cave art. While the assumption is they were scientifically advanced, their technology could possibly be compatible to our tech in the 21st century. And indeed it was. They were not only tech savvy but also 3D, CGI, computer-generated illustration savvy. The cave art remarkably demonstrates animation and reappearing art. To my discovery, ancient images did appear showing lifestyle, religious ceremonies, the gods, worship, activities, work, family, and the wealth and opulence of the ancient blacks of America. You will surely be as amazed as I was to see what the cave and rock art revealed. Although the amazing digital graph photos, DPIs are low, the color graphics are clear enough to see the life and times of the ancients, and one thing is for sure. They were not hunter-gatherers. The History of Queen Califia and the California Blacks. Researched and written by Diane Blackman Bailey, dblackmanceo@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. The link to this research paper may be found in the description.
All right, so 3D CGI cave art, that's for you to look up. If this cave art is in CGI 3D with 21st century technology, I mean, that's some new drop, right? That's some new drops. We have a couple minutes to do a dismount on the Queen of California. I'm going to get a couple pages out of this. This is out of His Level Best and Other Stories by Edward Everett Hale. And this is something, you know, talking to AD, kind of stumbled on. I just want to drop a little intro to it. All right, so the Queen of California in the winter of 1862, I read for the first time the Spanish romance of the Surgas of Esplandian. It is sometimes cited as the fifth book of Amadis of Gaul, but is by Garcia Ordonez de Montalvo, the translator of Amadis, a workman very inferior to Liberia, who must be rated, I think, very highly among the writers of narrative. All right, here we go. Coming to the illusion in this forgotten romance to the island of California, very near to the terrestrial paradise. How many different sources do you need to get that California, Virginia, all these areas here are being South America related to Eden, the garden, the paradise? They found you here. I saw at once that here was the origin of the name of the state of California, long sought for by the antiquarians of that state, but long forgotten, for the romance seems to have been published in 1510. The edition of 1521 is now in existence, while our California, even the peninsula of that name, was not discovered by the Spaniards till 1526, and it was not named California till 1535. And the next meeting of the American Antiquarian Society, I called their attention to this derivation of the name, and it has since been universally recognized as the origin of the name now so familiar to us. The romance of Esplandian is now so rare, that I translated for the Atlantic Monthly all the parts which relate to the Queen of California. Now I republished them. The reader may be interested in examining first the history of the discussion of the subject and then the romance. The name California was given by Cortez, right? But he didn't name it. We're going to find out. He just officially put it down, who discovered the peninsula in 1535. The statement that he named it, we have the authority of Herrera. It is proved, I think, that the expedition of Mendoza in 1532 did not see California. It is certain that they have given it no name. Humboldt saw in the Archives of Mexico a statement in manuscript that it was discovered in 1526, but for this there is no other authority. It is certain that the name does not appear until 1535. No etymology of this name has been presented satisfactory to the historians. Venegas, the Jesuit historian in California, writing in 1758, sums up the matter in these words. The most ancient name is California, used by Bernal Diaz, limited to a single bay. I could wish to gratify the reader by the etymology and true origin of this name, but in none of the various dialects of the natives could the missionaries find the least traces of such a name being given by them to the country, or even to any harbor or bay or small part of it. So nor can I subscribe to the etymology of some readers who suppose the name to be given to it by the Spaniards on their feeling an unusual heat at the first landing here. They thence called the country California, compounding the two Latin words calida forna, a hot furnace. I believe few will think the adventurers could boast of so much literature. I believe that the California authors of our own time agreed with Venegas in rejecting this forced etymology, trying to claim that they came up with this name California. The words to be made from it should be Californacia. Dr. Bushell, who says the heat of the interior valleys is that of a baker's furnace, speaks of a region which Cortez never saw. So how can he be naming it after a furnace? It must be recollected that though Bernal Diaz only uses the name for the bay, we have Herrera's better authority for saying that Cortez gave it to the peninsula, but neither peninsula nor bay is the oven described by Dr. Bushell. All right. So Claveguero, in his history of California, after giving this etymology, offers as an alternative the following as an opinion of the learned Jesuit J. Giuseppe Campoy. He believes that the name is composed of the Spanish word cala, which means a little cove of the sea, and Latin fornix, which means the vault of a building. He thinks that these words are thus applied because within Cape St. Lucas there is a little cove of the sea towards the western part, which rises a rock so worn out that the upper part of the hollow is seen a vault as perfect as if it were made by art. Interesting. All right, let's go. Dismount time. Cortez, therefore, observing this cala, or cove, this vault probably called this port California or California, speaking half in Spanish, half in Latin. Calavero suggests as an improvement on this somewhat wild etymology that Cortez may have said California, cove furnace, speaking as in the Jesuit suggestion in two languages. I am told that the Reverend Dean Trent's, in one of the etymological works, suggests that the Greek, whatever this is, implying that the province seemed to be early settlers to have the attractions of a beautiful adultery. Okay. I may not myself found this passage, but I remember that Mr. Powers, the sculptor, represents California as a naked woman. All right, so we saw the emblem of California, right? Seductive to them in front, but concealing a thorn bush in her hands behind, and he describes his statue as intended to represent her false seductions. Okay. This etymology, it is enough to say that Cortez and his men knew nothing of the seductions, never finding gold or anything else tempting there, and that the theory requires more yet worse scholarship at their hands than the Calida Fornax. Of all such speculations, Mr. Greenhouse says very fitly, none of them are satisfactory or even ingenious. All right, it is in the worthless romance of Sargas Explandian, the son of Amadis of Gaul. All right, a book long since deservingly forgotten, that there is to be found the source from which the adventurers transferred the name California to the new region of the discovery. Towards the close of this romance, the various Christian knights assembled to defend the emperor of the Greeks in the city of Constantinople against the attacks of the Turks and the infidels on this occasion. In a young romance published in 1510, 25 years before Cortez discovered the Ame'rican California, the name appears with precisely our spelling. The following passage: know that on the right hand of the Indies there is a terrestrial paradise called California, an island called California very near to the terrestrial paradise, which was peopled with black women without any men among them, because they were accustomed to live after the fashion of the Amazons. They were very strong and hardened bodies, ardent courage, great force. The island was the strongest in the world. From its steep rocks and cliffs, their arms were all of gold. All right, and so were their comparisons of the wild beasts with which they rode after having tamed them, for in the island was no other metal. They lived in caves, very well worked out. They had many ships in which they sailed to other ports to carry on their forays. All right, so then you have in the paper to which these paragraphs are an introduction. I have translated every passage in